Welcome to DwreckTV. I'm Dweck. And today is day 5 of ranking Bound for Glory. And today we're going to be going into the Wii era. The Wii era was from late 2006 all the way to late 2012. During this time, between TNA Wrestling and Ring of Honor Wrestling, combined with the UFC, Strike Force, Dream, and Elite XC, for better or for worse, and the Affliction promotions and such. This was a banging time. This was a great time to be a wrestling fan and a great time to be a fan of mixed martial arts. And as far as the WWE goes, like I've said when I was ranking WrestleManias, the WWE was just nosedive into the ground. Like, there was no excitement whatsoever with WWE because their direction was just trash. But with TNA, it was great, for better or for worse. Whatever people want to say, like, this is one of the worst times, especially when it came to Vince Russo showing up and then later Hulk Hogan showing up and everything. Guys, when they were good, they were good. And when they was bad, yeah, even I'll admit they were bad. But aside from that, they also had UFC, they also have Strike Force and Elite XC and Affliction and Dream in Japan and such. So this was a banging time. Let's start things off with Bound for Glory 2007. Former friend Ball Fury thought about going to see this in Georgia, and he was trying to convince me to go. I thought, yeah, maybe, but I wound up not going because I really didn't want to go with him. But this, I'm kind of glad I didn't, but at the same time, I kind of like, I should have went. But I'm pretty sure he didn't go either. But regardless, this Bound for Glory 2007 was a banger. It started off with the Ultimate X match between LAX and Triple X. It was Low-Key and Felix Skipper because they had reunited with Christopher Daniels earlier in the year. And the Ultimate X, you can't go wrong with that. Especially seeing all the X Division guys just flying all over and Hernandez trying to get on the Ultimate X and he just... the ropes couldn't hold his weight. But it was nuts as usual. As AJ Styles teaming with Tom Coe, taking on Team Pac-Man, the Ron the Truth Killings, and Consequences Creed, the future Austin Creed. But it was during this time when I was like, man, why is AJ doing this? Because AJ Styles went from being the main top guy, the face of TNA, to being a lackey to Christian Cage. I'm like, what is going on here? Especially from the last year where he teamed with Christopher Daniels and they fought LAX in that brutal, murderous cage match. And then here he's teaming with Tom Coe and he's a lackey to Christian Cage. Like, what the but either way, it was a good match. And the X Division title with Christopher Daniels and Jay Lethal, really good. And probably one of the best ones on there was the Steiner Brothers fighting Dudley Boys. That's a dream match right there that I never got to see on either WCW or the WWF. The Steiner Brothers fighting the Dudley Boys. This one was great. I loved it. And seeing Rick Steiner start teaming with Scott again, like old times, it was great. Talk about a nostalgic trip, seeing the Steiner Brothers, but them going forward, it was great. Samoa Joe fighting Christian Cage was good, and the Monsters Ball was nuts, as always. And then capping it all off in the main event with Kurt Angle fighting Sting. And how fitting in Georgia, Sting's old stomping ground from WCW, and the same town that Kurt Angle won the Olympic gold medal. So this match was really, really good. But much like with a lot of TNA main events, a totally great match brought to shit because Kevin Nash tried interfering on Kurt Angle's behalf, but Sting wound up persevering and wound up winning the match. Where would DwreckTV rank Bound for Glory 2007? This whole night was exciting. I really wish I could have went. main event match was kind of brought to shit because of Kevin Nash tried interfering, but other than that, this was a really good show. I would watch it again. I really liked it. I'd give it a solid A. Despite Kevin Nash interfering, but Sting persevered. But this one was really good. Next is Bound for Glory 2008. This was around the same time that I started DwreckTV on YouTube. And it was also around the same time the Angry Video Game Nerd and Nostalgia Critic had their final battle. So, how fitting around that same time that Bound for Glory 2008 happened. And this whole night was great. You had the X Division guys in Asylum cage. That was crazy, but like it kind of dragged on a lot. The women's matches I didn't really care for. LEX and the Dudley Boys, Beer Money and Abyss and his partner were a pretty crazy tag match. And then the Dudley Boys putting Abyss through a flaming table. Like, son of a bitch! Like some ECW type stuff right here. This is great. And then Christian Cage fighting Booker T and AJ Styles in a three-way. Great stuff. And then a dream match that never got to happen in either WCW or WWF. Kurt Angle fighting Jeff Jarrett. And this is the first time we see Jeff Jarrett on Bound for Glory since 2006. And this one was a really good one. And then capping it all off with Samoa Joe versus Sting. You want to talk about a Legends versus New Generation match. This was off the hook. And completely off the hook. They even fought in the crowd. And Samoa Joe freaking did a launching missile drop kick off and almost broke his nuts on the guardrail. Like, this match was out of control. And then Kevin Nash comes in and attacks Joe with a bat, and Sting wins. It's like, oh, a totally amazing match, brought the shit. But other than that, this was one of the best Bound for Glories ever. Would I put it as an S rank or an A rank? This is a tough one, because the only thing that would keep it from being a full S rank would be the women's matches. The Asylum match kind of dragged on, and the main event kind of brought the shit, but it was still an amazing card. I would put it at a high A, borderline S, going into a high A. TNA at its finest, right here. Bound for Glory 2008. If y'all ain't watched it, y'all gotta watch it. Go on YouTube, go on TNA Plus, or buy it on DVD. I suggest buy it on DVD, so that way you can actually have it physically in your hands and not have to worry about streaming platforms and such. But that's another argument for another day. Let's move on with Bound for Glory 2009. This one was good. Ultimate X match was probably one of the best, scariest Ultimate X matches I've ever seen. Especially Christopher Daniels almost dying. That was nuts. And then guys like Kevin Nash fighting Eric Young and Hernandez. Good stuff. But the tag match between, it just seems like there's a whole lot of like multi-man teams at Bound for Glory lately, but this one was like a hardcore ladder match between the Dudley Boys, the British Invasion, Booker T and Scott Steiner, and Beer Money. Seeing Scott Steiner and Booker T team up is nuts, because after seeing them in WCW as the Steiner Brothers and Harlem Heat, and then them battling over the WCW World Title in 2000, how times have changed. That was nuts. And then Samoa Joe fighting Bobby Lashley. That was hard hitting. And Abyss fighting Cactus Jack in a hardcore match. Nuts. The whole pay-per-view has been nuts. And then capping it all off with AJ Styles versus Sting. And this whole talk about the whole tagline being the final curtain call for Sting. Was it really? Maybe to an extent, but that match was nuts. It was crazy. Sting was probably at his best. Sting fighting AJ Styles and even Samoa Joe was probably some of his best matches. And this one, when AJ Styles finally beat Sting, after Sting had been through like 3 Bound for Glories in a row winning. And then AJ Styles beats him. It was a real touchy passing of the torch, if you will. But where would I rank Bound for Glory 09? Some great stuff here. Despite some matches were kind of, especially the knockouts matches. Some knockouts matches are good. Some were just pass off. But I would give this one a solid 8. This was also during a time when, like, Vince Russo was taking over and Impact was really suffering from it. But they delivered on most pay-per-views. Bound for Glory especially. So, y'all can complain about Vince Russo's booking all y'all want on Impact, but when it came to pay-per-views, they delivered. Next up is Bound for Glory 2010. The tagline being 10-10-10. October 10th, 2010. So, this one was around the time when Hulk Hogan was in TNA, so everybody knows the story about that. For better or for worse. And then they also had Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Six-Pac with them at the beginning of the year. But then things fell apart. That sucked. And they also had ECW guys start showing up. But this whole night was it was good, but at the same time, you could definitely start telling that the tides were starting to change. Especially with TNA during this time, because ROH was starting to get on the rise around this time. But they had Motor City Machine Guns fighting the future Young Bucks, and Abyss fighting Rob Van Dam in a hardcore match was nuts, as usual. And seeing Rob Van Dam in TNA was a breath of fresh air in a way, because I'm so used to seeing him in the WWE, but seeing him in TNA was really cool. Especially when he would get to fight guys like AJ Styles in returning matches against Jeff Hardy. And then one of the matches that kind of like, what the hell's going on here? Like the ending to the Samoa Joe and Jeff Jarrett fighting Kevin Nash, Sting, and D'Angelo De Niro. Jarrett walking out on Joe was like, well, what's going on here? Lethal Lockdown was nuts. Absolutely nuts. And then the main event being a 3-way, the first ever 3-way for Bound for Glory, was Jeff Hardy fighting Kurt Angle, fighting Mr. Anderson, the former Mr. Kennedy, for the TNA World Title. A really good match between all 3 of them. And finally seeing Mr. Anderson, Ken Anderson, finally being a main event for a world title was something that should have been happening like years prior in the WWE, but he's in TNA, he's in a better place. But like the last few times, totally great match, brought to shit. And then Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff showing up, teaming up with Jeff Hardy turning heel and becoming world champion. And they formed the Team Immortal. In the same building that they started the NWO back in '96. I was like, what is going on here? That was absolute shit. But where would I rank Bound for Glory 2010? It wasn't all shit. As many people want to say that this was one of the worst ever. This was absolute shit. Jeff Hardy turning heel and joining with Hulk Hogan is like, it makes no sense. And then Jeff Jarrett coming out and Abyss holding up, they are here, because he was saying they this, they that. Yeah, that was absolute shit. And it was like, what is going on here? Yeah, this is not the TNA that we all know and love. But despite all of that, this was a good show. All the matches were really good until the end. But it is nothing anywhere close to what the WWE was doing after this. I would go on a whim and say Bound for Glory 2010, I would give it a low B. Despite all the problems that they had, it was still an enjoyable show. So, y'all want to watch it, y'all can. And then we go into Bound for Glory 2011. I didn't really watch too much of this one because this was around the time when I was getting out of pro wrestling. I was fed up with wrestling. I was done. I was out of it. I was definitely gone from WWE during this time. And TNA, I was like on rocky roads with it, and I was full on with ROH whenever I could find a reliable source to watch them. This was definitely around the time when I kind of stopped watching it, because just like with WWE, and then they started doing this whole thing with the camera zooms. Like every time they have a big impact move, they would just like go that, or when they do a punch and they do this, do that. I hated that. I hated that so much. I was like, why are we doing this? Why are y'all doing this? This is so freaking stupid. This whole card was really good. Some matches were good, some matches were kind of passed off. But they did have Rob Van Dam fighting Jerry Lynn in a hardcore match. On par with their ECW classic, but not as memorable, but it was still a really good match, like going forward from it. And all the other matches were really good, especially Bully Ray Dudley fighting Ken Anderson in a hardcore match. That was nuts. Freaking Anderson almost taking his freaking head off with a mic shot. And nobody really cares about the knockouts matches, let's be honest. And Christopher Daniels fighting AJ Styles was a classic. And Hulk Hogan fighting Sting for the first time since 1997 on a big stage like this. They had no business fighting, especially Hogan. He can't wrestle no more. And Sting was on his last legs. But for nostalgic purposes, it was alright. And then the main event, I'm so glad that wasn't the main event. But the real main event was Kurt Angle fighting Bobby Roode. This right here was amazing. It really proved that Bobby Roode had really come a long way from the days of Team Canada, then going to It Pays to Be Rude, then going to Beer Money with James Storm. And then he started showing himself to be a great main event player. And going against Kurt Angle, you couldn't ask for more for that one. But that was a really good match. Really good stuff. But where would I rank Bound for Glory 2011? Some matches were really good. The show wasn't really that memorable, besides from a few good matches. And the camera zooms just took it out of me. Like, that was a big turn off. I would put this at a high B. If it wasn't for the camera angles just going like boom, boom, trying to do a body slam, they just go boom. I couldn't stand that. I don't even like doing that. Not even for a video game. And then capping it all off with the Wii era is Bound for Glory 2012. I did not watch this because I was completely gone. This was during a time when I was completely gone from WWE and TNA. And like I said, trying to get ROH was a bitch sometimes because, you know. But this was also during the time when I started getting into New Japan Pro Wrestling. I started getting fully invested with them. But watching this, I didn't really miss too much. I mean, they had Rob Van Dam fighting Zema Ion, like the old versus new, so that was pretty cool. And Magnus versus Joe was good. All the other matches, and an actual good knockouts match between Tara and Miss Tressmaster. I really liked Tara when she was Victoria in WWF, but seeing her at TNA was a fresh air as well. Three-way tag team title match was nuts. And Bobby Roode and James Storm Battle of Beer Money in a hardcore match. Bloody, brutal. A battle between two former tag team partners. And they even fought each other when there was AMW and Team Canada. That was nuts. And then the main event being Jeff Hardy versus Austin Aries. This was more of Jeff Hardy's redemption because of his past drug problems. And even Austin Aries, like, proclaiming himself to be the greatest man on earth and berating Jeff Hardy and everything. This whole match was really good. And Austin Aries was full on ROH mode in this match. If Jeff Hardy was an ROH, he would have definitely had to storm guys like Austin Aries and even guys like Roderick Strong and Bryan Danielson and the whole ROH shebang. But this one was really good. Jeff Hardy finally came out in his redemption to being world champion again. It was a good show, but where would I rank this? Not really memorable, but they still had some good matches, some damn good matches on here. I would put it at a high B as well. Would have I still continued watching TNA during this time? Probably not, because I was just fully gone from them. I couldn't stand Impact, I couldn't stand WWE. I was just pretty much done. And New Japan, I was just full on with that by the end of 2012, going into the Wii U era. But there it is. The Bound for Glories of the Wii era started off hot. This was an absolute hot time for TNA, the UFC, and mixed martial arts in general. Like, if you took WWE out of the equation and just had TNA, Ring of Honor, and mixed martial arts, especially everybody wearing like tap out shirts and affliction shirts and mixed martial arts like gear all over the place, it was an awesome time. You couldn't go wrong with that. But as we went into the 2010s, things just started changing for whatever reasons, but that's what I remember about this time. So that's all I got for y'all today. See y'all tomorrow as we go into the Wii U era. This is Drek signing out. See y'all tomorrow, same time, same channel, and see you on the flip side.